This is Christine Brown, and while I have to listen to this podcast as my motherly duty, you have the choice not to. My sons, and of course Michael, sometimes say some naughty things when they're trying to be funny, but really, they're just being stupid. You still want to listen? Go right ahead. I am not your mother.
This is episode 4, I suppose, of the Patriots Dynasty podcast. Today we're doing the 2001 season, week 4 against the Miami Dolphins. And we have a pared down crew today. It's myself and Mr. Mello. The brothers are off, gallivanting somewhere.
I was thinking gallivanting.
Yeah. I mean, it's Greg's birthday, so him I'll give a pass. Steve is probably on a plane somewhere for work. Not that he really works because he golfs. Greg, but it's just you and me, Mike.
That's right. Greg didn't respond to my birthday wish.
I called him right before this, and he's hanging out with the resident, with Danny Emerald.
Oh, nice! Love that guy.
Yes. Danny flew down for Bro Week, I think they called it.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was a nice birthday wish. Did you enjoy it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. It was something to the effect of happy birthday and congratulate your parents on boning
swapping
or
fluids, I believe.
Swapping juice, I believe I said.
Yes, yeah.
I wasn't that disgusting.
You have a way with words.
It's the way my brain functions.
It's a bad way, but it is a way with words.
But happy birthday to Mr. Gregory Brown, wherever you are.
31 today.
Wow.
Yeah. And also happy birthday to our niece, Audrey, who is also, well, she's 1, so she's got some catching up to do. But
happy birthday, Audrey.
But I think I am still number 1 favorite uncle so far out of our nieces.
Nice.
Which annoys the other 2 Browns, so hopefully they don't listen to this episode.
They won't.
No, they definitely won't. Luckily, nobody will, so we can say whatever the hell we want.
Boom. Until they do, and then...
Yeah,
ouch.
And then we'll get canceled.
That's all right.
Yeah, I don't mind being
I don't want to do this shit anyway. I'm tired.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, so being canceled might actually be a blessing in disguise.
That's right.
All right, so week 4. Patriots at the Dolphins. Let's touch on this Dolphins team. What did you think of them, first of all?
The Dolphins team. I mean, I guess it was a bit refreshing, dare I say, on a Patriots podcast, because the AFC East has been so bad for so long that I couldn't remember a team being even above mediocre.
I'll fight you on that later, but okay.
All right, fine. And if you bring up the Bills, I can't co-sign on that. But, I don't know. I think they looked – I mean, they have they've always needed a quarterback. I mean, I guess that's their biggest problem at this point. But their defense was solid. Their run game was all right.
Mm-hmm.
What's the quarterback? Jay Fiedler?
Yes. So this is – Jay Fiedler was the – I feel like heir apparent to Dan Marino is too strong, but he was their first shot at replacing Dan Marino. Dan Marino retired a couple of years earlier. I want to say 98 or 99. So Fiedler was the next in line to take over. I don't think anybody was expecting a Marino-esque sort of replacement.
Right.
Because I don't think there is, or maybe even ever will be. Just the numbers he was putting up are what good quarterbacks put up now, and he was doing it at an age where it wasn't quarterback friendly. Like he's throwing for 5,000 yards back when the average was like half that.
Yeah.
So, but this was still a good team. They were still running the AFC East at this point. They had, I think, won the division the year before in 2000, and this year they finished second in the AFC East at 11-5. Like, so they were still.
Oh, spoiler alert right there.
We ain't spoiling nothing. This is history, but there's no spoilers in history.
Nobody's Googling this stuff.
Do you listen to World War II podcasts, bro?
No, I don't. And
oh, you should. It's awesome.
Could you imagine that it sounds depressing?
Depends on who's talking about it.
Okay.
But
is it only about World War II?
No, actually. Hardcore History. We're going to plug this right now because that's how we do. By Dan Carlin. He talks about a bunch of different historical things. My favorite is he goes through the entire World War One, from start to finish. And I think there's like 4 or 5 episodes. Each one is between 3 and 4 hours long.
Oh my Lord.
Of him monologuing. And it's fascinating.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean it's
it does. I mean it to each their own, right? It just seems like a dreary topic, obviously.
Yeah, but he's so excited about it, and he's a very good storyteller.
Gotcha.
So he tells kind of the human side of things, and he does it. It's a very well done podcast. I never thought I'd be listening to a history podcast of 4
I
episodes.
could see it. I've known you for a while. I could see it.
You don't know me that well. What else is
I don't know. The Patriots in this game.
Yeah.
See that segue?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Let's that was a fantastic segue. Let's finish up on the Dolphins real quick though.
All right.
So yeah, they finished second in the AFC East. They made the playoffs this year, along with both the Pats and the Jets. Because how's that weak AFC East for you now, Mr. Mello?
Hey, I said 20 years, man. I mean, 20 years ago was formidable.
Yeah, and they've always had a challenger. The Patriots have always had at least one challenger in the AFC East. But we'll get to that a different episode because I can do an entire episode on that with or without you.
Oh, wow. Well, I will take that one off then. Thank you.
All right. So they lost to the Ravens in the wild card. But I think it's probably a successful season. Their head coach was Dave Wannstedt, the man, the myth, the mustache.
The mustache, yes.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, he does look like a janitor from a porn studio, I think.
Janitor is very specific.
I assume they have janitors. I feel like there's a lot
I don't know. I don't
that
even know
happen.
what a janitor specifically would look like at a porn studio. What I would say is he probably looks like the stand-in, if they do have stand-ins for some porn studio.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I can see that too.
I don't know what that means though.
He looks like Deuce Bigelow, maybe.
And I don't really know what
well enough
porn is. So
yeah. But yeah, so Wannstedt was a decent coach. He spent 6 years with the Bears before coming to Miami, and kind of was like mediocre, kind of like a 9-7 sort of coach. But when he took over the Dolphins in 2011, they were both, 2001. They were 11-5 both years, kind of taking over from. I don't think wasn't it Don Shula, then Jimmy Johnson, then Wannstedt, or was this directly?
Sounds about right.
Shula? Yeah. Either way, he took over that like well-built team, took them to 11-5 records, and made the playoffs both years, and then kind of like trailed off a little bit. They went 9-7, 10-6. And then he didn't make it through the 2004 season because they were 1-8 at the time, and he was relieved of his duties. But
right.
It's the Dolphins, and when Wannstedt was a coach of them, they played the Pats tough. The Dolphins were 4-5 against the Pats, but they did lose their last 4 games. So they're actually 4-1 at one point against the Patriots, like early, when he had those teams that were built by his predecessor. And then the Patriots became the dynasty that everybody knows them as now, and he didn't win again.
I never thought about this before, but do you think, like, obviously Patriots are our team and we root for them, but if you think about it, and the evil empire side and all that stuff, how many jobs have the Patriots basically gotten rid of over the years because of their dominance. Like you just said once that probably due to the Patriots lost his job, and I bet 1,000 other people have done so as well. So how do you feel about that?
I'm fine with it. But yeah, I wonder what that number would be, because I think you have to count head coaches because they never last. Starting quarterbacks, I think you could add in there.
Oh, definitely.
I'm sure there's been some general managers. Yep. And then I think like the rest of the players and personnel and stuff, maybe less so, because that's so fluid year to year anyway.
They get rotated, right?
Yeah, but I think if you counted up all the different GMs, coaches, and starting quarterbacks, I bet you could put together quite a list.
That's interesting.
Maybe
you don't really think about that.
Yeah, we'll do some fact checking and we'll bring it back for next week. Figure
out who's doing the fact checking. Have you?
I'm assuming it's me, because it's not going to be
me,
the brothers, or
right?
Yeah. So
okay, cool. Yeah, definitely get that info and get back to me on that, because I'm interested.
Will do. You shit.
Yes.
All right. So I had usually I have a section on our show notes page outlining the star players for these teams, but I crossed out star players and just put guys I've heard of, because there wasn't a lot of big names on this Dolphins team for them finishing 11-5. There were guys I kind of recognize, but they're not ones you're going to see in the annals of the history books of the NFL, I don't think.
I beg to differ. I thought their defense was stacked.
I thought there was 2 names on the defense, and then outside of that, it was like, yeah, okay.
All right. Well, I would say 2 big names, and then like a couple like solid ones.
All right, give me some names.
Clearly, Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember that Jason Taylor was like, I think Brady recently said that Ed Reed was his kryptonite. Well, Jason Taylor was up there and causing problems.
Yeah, I think for the first half of Brady's career, it was Jason Taylor. In the second half, it was Ed Reed.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So, and there was always rumors about both those guys that they would be on the Patriots. So it was kind of sad that I never saw that happen, because Jason Taylor in like a Patriots uniform, that'd be sick.
Yeah. Yeah, it was him and who was the defensive end for the Panthers for all those years? Peppers.
Oh, Peppers, yeah.
Julius Peppers.
He's still playing, right?
Always rumors. Is he still?
I think he's still playing. Maybe he's not. I think he is, though.
Live fact check this.
I think he is. I'm going to fill in the space while you're Googling this. Right. I vaguely remember it was a couple of weeks ago. It was raining. Frank Sinatra was on the radio, and I was flipping through the channels when I saw his sparkly eyes on TV, and I thought for a minute, is that Julius Peppers? And it wasn't. But then I kept on changing the channels and switching through, and eventually I turned the TV off, because
I love the way you're killing time. So you were not far off. The last career history list he has, he played. So started with the Panthers 02 to 09, went to the Bears 2010 to 2013, Packers 2014, 2016, back to the Panthers 2017 through 2018. Ooh. He was retired last year.
Oh, okay. Man, that's a hell of a career.
Right? For a defensive end.
Yeah. He was a beast.
Pretty monstrous.
Yeah, so Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas. I believe there was Patrick Surtain, which he was pretty okay.
Yep. I had him and Sam Madison.
Yeah, he was solid.
The 2 cornerbacks. I mean, like I said, they're names I recognize, guys I know, but they're not like. I
mean, I feel like Zach Thomas was like a Brewski type. He wasn't flashy, but he was in every play.
Yeah, he was a name brand,
Right.
He was that lunch pail, white, no-necked middle linebacker.
Urlacher.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, Urlacher, Brewski, and Zach Thomas.
Right.
Were the guys, But
I think
the only other name I recognize, at least on the defense, was Brock Marion. I don't know why I recognize him. Probably just because his name is Brock Marion, and it's one
I
of those names
don't
that stuck
really
with me.
recognize that guy too much.
I don't remember him being good. Maybe I had his football card growing up or something, but Brock Marion was the name that stuck with me.
I did remember Olinde Mare. Olindo
Yes.
Mare.
Who
But,
apparently was an absolute weapon. And
right.
Which I didn't realize. You don't think of kickers much, but
I think about him all the time.
I bet you do. Well, you do this year.
Well,
there aren't any kickers who can kick a field goal.
Yeah, which funny how we all complained about our kicking situation until we've
speak for yourself.
Hey, I complained about everything.
Well, that's true. I didn't complain about it at all.
All right. I still complain about trading Jimmy G, even though the Patriots have won 2 Super Bowls and been to 3 since then. But that's besides the point, dude, okay? Pay the guy whatever he wants to keep him in the bench until Brady retires when he's 50. I don't care. Make it happen, Belichick. I'm sick of the Patriots doing whatever they want all the time. What about me?
Counterpoint. When has Gostkowski ever lost a game by missing a field goal? I can think of maybe one.
The Broncos. It wasn't to miss the game, but he definitely affected it, where then they needed to go for 2 points at the end. Gronk couldn't make it happen. There was potentially some defensive pass interference, and that's the way it went.
Correct. Name another.
Another time, well, I was thinking about this about 5 weeks ago. It was raining, and I had Frank Sinatra on the radio, funny enough.
As you do.
You know what? Like, he's missed pretty – I want to say frequently by his standards in the recent years, but I guess that's a good point. I don't really remember any big ones.
There's one other that I can think of, and it was way back in the day when they were playing the Cardinals early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one of those games where shit was just going wild, where the Cardinals had the ball like late and they were up by a couple points, and they were trying to run the clock out, and I think Vince Wilfork forced the fumble. They recovered it, but then they couldn't drive anywhere, so they tried to kick a game-winning field goal at the end, and they missed. Gostkowski missed, and they lost that game.
Well, I'll counter and ask you, do you remember when he won the game?
Oh, yeah.
When?
This most recent Super Bowl against the Rams, he won that one.
Okay, that's fair. And?
I would say the Giants game where he kicked the 50-some-odd-yard field goal as time expired. He won that one.
I remember that one. That was regular season you're talking about.
Yeah, he did it again against the Jets in overtime. I think a couple times, actually, he's beat the Jets in overtime in the regular season.
So, like, under 10 times that you remember. Big whoop. No, to be serious for a second, you're right. He was pretty good. Vinatieri was awesome. So now to go from those two guys to Nick Folk and all that stuff is pretty disappointing. So a guy like Olinde Mare, I don't even know how to say his freaking name.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Olindo Mare. Yeah. All right. Well, he was great.
I think that's on par with Dolphins wide receiver Aronde Gadsden.
Oh, yeah. Man, that guy was like, he just looked like a beast. I don't think he was a beast, but he was like, he just looked vicious.
He did, yeah. But like, so I mean, this Dolphins offense, to segue to that,
wasn't a great segue, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
Yeah, it was all right.
All right, we'll workshop it. Was basically Lamar Smith at running back, who the year before had over 1,000 rushing yards. This year had almost that. He had 968. It was basically kind of that typical run-first, heavy-set offense with some play action and some guys who were, I guess, burners down the field. So you had to look for the long play action. Almost, it felt similar to like the later Baltimore Ravens with Joe Flacco. They were more of like a run-first team, but then they were going to chuck it down the sideline.
Playoff Joe Flacco or regular season Joe Flacco?
Oh, this was definitely regular season Joe Flacco.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Where they just try to chuck it deep and get the pass interference call. But yeah, so I mean, like we talked about before, Jay Fiedler, the quarterback, had a decent year, I guess, for quarterbacks in.
I mean, he was a bit of a running quarterback too, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, like
I mean, you wouldn't think it, but
it came up a lot in the announcers as well, talking about how they were deploying the what they call it, the Doug Flutie defense,
Yeah.
which I thought was an interesting choice of rushing quarterback. But I guess this is pre Michael Vick, so it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Flutie is probably on a different level, I would say, than Michael Vick. So I'm sure Michael Vick created issues for the defense to the point where they had to create game plans just for him. But
oh yeah,
Fiedler probably not of that caliber, but he was all right for a little guy running around.
Yeah, he definitely got his ass lit up a bunch of times, though. The man has no feeling for somebody coming up behind him. Like, I feel like he's the first guy to die in a Scream movie because he just had no spatial awareness. Like, he would take off, and he got caught from behind multiple times by like 3 to 50-pound linemen.
And I hate to feel passionate about this, but I'm going to go at you hard.
In
a Scream movie or something like that, you would think that the most unaware guy who doesn't know what the hell is going on would get slashed, but that would be too obvious. He's probably also the comedic relief because he's just running around like a maniac. So I would say that you'd probably kill off some well-known person just to kind of give the audience shock and to scare them a little bit. To the stakes are risen. Then you'd probably go after maybe like a couple of like the side characters, but like one's a fan favorite. You're like, damn it, how'd that happen? Then it would be Jay Fiedler, probably in some sort of like weird sex scene or something where he's like warming up, and then boom, down goes Jay. That is how I feel about this.
Where he's rolling left on a 3rd and long.
Right. Exactly.
Boom,
3rd and
off
long
goes
is
his
like,
head.
Yeah. He's like reciting poetry and boom, decapacitated.
All
anyways,
right.
I didn't mean to attack you there, but that's how I felt.
Movie nerd. All right, fair enough.
Hey, it is what it is.
All right, so with that being said, let's actually talk about this game.
Let's do it.
Our recording, I know you called this out to me because you thought it was a glitch as well, like I did, started halfway through the second drive of the game. And looking at the Boston Globe things, I don't know if you saw it too, but on the front page, they actually talked about how it was because the United States had launched an attack on Afghanistan.
Right, it was the first day of that, I believe.
Yeah, it was the airstrikes on bin Laden. And
right.
So it was kind of like a special report talking about that. And so a lot of networks actually covered that, which kind of went into the beginning of the game. So,
which again created more controversy because I read a few things where it was talking about, I guess some networks decided to not show any games and just show the coverage and Bush speak and everything, and then switched over. And then some decided to cover the games and not address that.
Yeah, or they would like push it off to a sister station, the speech, and show the game on the regular station. Yeah, it was a whole big kerfuffle.
Yes,
over that, which typical. Can you imagine if Twitter was around back then? If that had happened?
I mean, no. I mean, we were talking off air about the wonders of Twitter and the world as it is today, and with information. And yeah, I mean, something like that, I cannot imagine. Which I also wonder what it would do for information, because I mean, I'm sure everybody at that point, as far as I can remember, was just curious about what was going on. We were, afraid what might happen over here, what was going on to people over there. And if you just had a barrage of voices coming at you and in the middle of all that, what would you take from it? I mean, that might even be a scarier time looking back if that was around.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just because of, I mean, I feel like nowadays news isn't so much who's the most correct, it's who gets the information out first. So I think there would probably be a lot more I don't want to say fear mongering, but just kind of unnecessary fear coming up from all these maybe unreliable stories coming out of like people trying to be the first but not getting all the information or getting incorrect information out.
Right. But then the devil's advocate would say, and it's also, I think, an interesting point where you would definitely have some sort of vehicle to hear people outside of the U.S. and how they were viewing things, and
Correct.
maybe some of the people that were going through things that we weren't seeing, and we definitely didn't have that voice. I'd traveled to Europe and heard some things around that time, and you'd have to sort of do that to hear it. But I guess social media and internet, the way it is now, probably would provide us with different voices and people trying to reach out to kind of explain what they were going through, which is another interesting point.
Yeah, that is true.
But that did happen. And
yes. So the game started with the Patriots on the Dolphins, like inside their 20, which turns out was because the Patriots actually kicked off, and the first pass from Jay Fiedler was Mike Vrabel's first career interception.
That's right. It was a beautiful one just because of how ridiculous it was.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Jay Fiedler was, as the announcer pointed out, throwing into triple coverage before Vrabel dropped back into coverage.
Right. So there's 4 guys on the one that he was tossing
which tells you a bit about Jay Fiedler as a replacement for Dan Marino. But, he had something Dan Marino didn't, which was the ability to run.
That's right.
So you turn it on, and the first play you got to see of this game was a Patriots rushing TD by Antoine Smith, which was a great start. I think that would have been really uplifting had you been watching it live. But knowing what the score was going in, knowing the Patriots were going to lose this.
See, I didn't even know they were going to lose. I forgot. I didn't even check the score, man. I went in it cold. I experienced the game brand new.
So we'll have different takeaways. Yeah, we'll have different takeaways of this then, because I knew going in this is going to be 30-10.
No,
we saw the Patriots 1 touchdown a couple minutes into this game.
Right. Well, and then like soon after, Fiedler. So the Dolphins were kind of making their way towards Patriots territory, and Gadsden actually broke free, and he was probably one of the most wide open wide receivers in an end zone I've ever seen ever. And or tight ends, and he missed them wide open. I don't know I think it was overthrown or whatever. I don't know how it happened, but I was like, oh man, maybe this is a win for the Patriots. I forget. We'll see how it goes. And then a couple of plays later, that was pretty much destroyed. So that was as far as I got with the hope on this one. I think that was in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was still pretty close. Even
I think at halftime was 17-10 or something.
Yeah, deep into the second quarter, the Patriots were tied at 10. They were hanging in there. And the Dolphins had that last drive right at the end where they scored a touchdown to go into the half up 17-10, like you said. And then it's all right, well, they're hanging in there. And then the third quarter started and the wheels fell off.
We also have to address, and this is something I guess subconsciously thought about this, but I never really pieced it together as to why until this year when I was watching the Patriots early on, and then after watching this game, it was sort of solidified. But so it was 90 degrees, it was 120 on the field.
Yeah. And
I also didn't, I guess I somehow missed this information before, but the Dolphins wear white at home. Due to sun issues, and so they want their opponents to kind of wear the darker colors and stoke the sun in.
Exactly, and the way the stadium faces now, apparently, the Dolphins the sideline is in the shade, whereas their opponents is in full sun the entire game.
Which is interesting because, I mean, the Patriots always have trouble at Mile High, and they obviously have their own unique circumstances for that stadium. So that was interesting. So it makes a lot more sense why the Patriots have some issues over there. But yeah, I think that definitely played a little bit into it. And I think the Dolphins, Jay Fiedler, especially after the game, was commenting that the defense looked slow. And I was saying it was kind of the most lackluster performance I've seen from the Patriots defense that I can remember. It looked like their spirit was broken by the third quarter.
Yeah, they were just getting the ball run down their throat. I think there's actually a quote from Belichick in the paper the next day, one of the reporters after the game said to him, like, how do you feel about the fact that they ran it on you 44 times? And he said, in typical Belichick fashion, I'm surprised they didn't run it more.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good too.
Because they were. I mean, they ran it 40 something times. I think it was 44 times, but they had like close to 200 yards rushing. It was like 160, 170 yards rushing all in, right. I think. Because Lamar Smith himself had
144.
Yeah, so
that's a hell of a game and a touchdown.
Yeah. Oh, they finished with 209 total between.
Damn.
I mean, I suppose with Jay Fiedler rushing as well. He had, how many yards rushing did he have? He had 37 yards rushing, 87 yards passing.
That's insane. I mean, I guess it could. It was shades of the Ravens game in the 2019 season.
Yep. Yeah, it felt very similar. The fact that we watched both of those in the same week.
Right.
Felt, I don't know, a little telling. I'm not quite sure why, but it was.
Hey, but if it ends the same way, I mean, it's a teaching point, and that was obvious from that point on that Belichick used it. Because, I mean, I was also looking at it. I mean, the Patriots were 1-3 after this game.
Yeah.
Baffling.
Right. And because you look at the end of this and you think Patriots 1-3. They've lost, like, all the articles, too, after the game are talking about how, well, it's obviously not Brady. Like, quarterback controversies ended. It's obviously they need Bledsoe back.
And the Ron Borges thing where he wrote the quarterback controversy ended after Brady's first fumble.
Yes.
So I'm like, wow, what a bold statement.
So typical.
And he's wrong. Yeah. How? That's another thing on a tangent here. What's the point of listening to like sports talk when like anybody can say whatever the hell they want and nobody's held accountable for anything? I mean, between Max Kellerman, the first take guys, Skip Bayless and Shannon, what's the point? Because you could say anything and then if you're wrong, you're wrong. Who gives a crap? Because that's a pretty bold statement. And I wonder if even like Ron Borges remembers it because there's so much other crap that he said over the years that it doesn't really matter.
Oh, don't you worry. I'll make sure he remembers it because I'm going to tweet it at him. After we're done with this show.
Do it.
He can get fucked.
And I'm going to sign up for Twitter, and then I'll do that too.
Oh, yeah, because I know we're going to run some Shaughnessy articles too, and we'll tweet them at Cold Takes Exposed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I love that account. So we'll make sure they know about it.
All right.
Well, but yeah, no, I think there's actually it almost feels like there's a cottage industry about hating the Patriots, and I was thinking about this earlier because I've heard this kind of come up in other places where the Boston sports teams before 2000-ish were kind of the lovable losers. So the sports writers of the day kind of made their names being the negative of these teams and like pointing out like, well, here we go again. It's time for the Red Sox to bungle it away or the Patriots to be the Patriots or, all of that stuff. And then since like 2001 and the Patriots became a dynasty, the rest of the teams have kind of followed. And so there's been this level of success, but the sports media in Boston has kind of tried to keep that negative attitude towards it. But now it just feels forced because like the Patriots have won 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls and they've been to all 3 of them. Why are we shitting over how Bill Belichick drafts in the second round over the past 10 years? Because honestly, doesn't fucking matter, does it? It's obviously working because they're still winning Super Bowls at 66% clip. So, yeah, I feel like the negativity is by design, and I feel like they're almost trying to play this caricature of like the Patriots so good, so we're going to hate them so that people will hate watch us and we'll go viral because of it.
Doesn't that like make sports talk kind of lame though? because we know it's a gimmick.
So
and of course they have to, because somebody has to play the counterpoint. So, you have Max kind of running his mouth for 4 straight years, kind of just saying the same thing. And somehow he gets a paycheck for that.
Mhm.
But I mean, we know that it's an act. So I guess like part of it is that he's trying to sell that act. So good for him.
Yeah.
But it just seems like I don't know how sports talk exists when nothing matters. I mean,
but this is what I mean. This is how it existed, because they come out with these ridiculous hot takes like,
but why do we listen to it, man?
Because we hate ourselves, Mike.
Okay, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Why do we hate ourselves?
Because we weren't hugged enough as children.
Okay.
That is beyond my pay scale.
That's a good start, I think.
Right. Speaking of other things I hate.
Okay. We'll touch on that later, because I feel like we were going in a pretty good spot there.
All right. Yeah. No. Yeah. We'll get back to that. We've got a whole season's worth of episodes, so we'll peel that onion.
Yes.
Other things I hate: the stupid fucking dirt baseball field in the middle of the old Miami.
Oh yeah, that was a staple.
It was awful. Like watching kickers kick from the dirt.
Yeah.
The stereo watching like linemen trying to like line up in the dirt and try to like get a jump on things.
Yeah, but isn't there like some kind of like fun like backyard football type of thing to that?
Well, I mean, yeah, between that and the fact that all the grass was dead, at least it looked like it on
I mean, a couple of like rolled ankles aside.
It made me feel better looking out the window and being like, oh, my grass is brown too. This is perfect. And half of it's dirt. I love it. I am the Miami football field.
Not to play counterpoint after just saying what I just said about everybody else, but I will say that was probably my favorite field of all time.
Oh, fucking course it was.
So take that, and we could debate that all day long. Because
all right, give it to me. Why is that your favorite field? Because it's different.
Because it's different,
wrong,
man. Because it's wrong. Okay.
Because it's socially unacceptable.
It's socially unacceptable. Like no, dude, don't attack me over that. Or are you playing me attacking you?
No, I'm attacking you in that case.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't like that. And I wasn't going to attack you. I was going to say I have a lot of beautiful childhood memories about that field.
Really?
There were a lot of times where I remember watching Dan Marino destroy us on that field. And I remember like, man, that guy has some crazy stats. And I would keep track of those stats because I had no friends and no time with anybody outside of my parents. And it got me through those days. Okay. I remember there were journals when I was a kid in school that talked about Dan Marino's stat lines. Okay. So God damn it. I love that field.
All right. I mean, I can't argue that because I'm pretty sure I introduced you to the Unnecessary Roughness computer football game.
You did. And by the way, that still might be the best game ever. If anybody can get, what was it, running on DOS or something? I don't know.
Yeah,
if you can find this game.
It's online. There's an online emulator of it.
Then get
if
it.
I remember,
everyone get it. If anyone's listening right now and all you take from life or this podcast is this, download this game. What is it again?
Unnecessary Roughness. I want to say 93.
But it didn't have the date, right?
I don't know. There was a couple of them, but yeah, whatever the earliest one was. And if I remember, I'll post the link to where you can play it online for free. But you could literally design your own plays. So there's a chalkboard where you can drag and drop different players into the positions, and then click and literally draw the routes for where everybody's supposed to run. And I would draw the most ridiculous plays. But yeah, so that game, I think before
an obsession over numbers.
Oh, but I can't even begin to tell you how bad it was. Before I put us in the game, like once I finally met you and made a friend, I think I played as the 94, 95, whatever it was, Patriots. So I would put Drew Bledsoe in and make sure he would throw for 500 yards a game, and then put Scott Zolak in and try to get him another 500. And at the end of the season, I literally printed out all of the stats that I had.
Oh, I remember. I think I had my own book too.
And I put him in a binder, and I would highlight all the ones that were NFL records. And I was super proud of the fact that I had Drew Bledsoe throw for more passing yards than Dan Marino because it was over the 5,000. And in a video game that I had on easy, by the way, I beat Dan Marino by like 200 passing yards.
Well, that's an accomplishment.
Just that good.
And that game was awesome. I mean, it's right up there with Tecmo Super Bowl, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh on that was awesome. And I mean,
I love that you pronounce that with a hard G at the end.
Harbaugh. Or Harbage, as he likes to be called.
Even better. Only when he's playing in London.
That's right. But yeah, no, that game was definitely awesome. And I don't know if you remember the that NFL coaches game that came out for a couple of years where it was like you would coach the team and like it was super weird. And I like the idea of it because I'm a stat nerd, but it was sort of like that, but you could play the game. So
it was that game was a great idea, but the execution was horrendous.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and I don't know how much of a market there is for that type of game per se, but it was,
and it was a console game and it didn't work. It should have been a computer game. But yeah, we were so psyched about that. I remember that.
Yeah. So anyways, that Dolphins stadium somehow is connected to that. And
now that we finished measuring our NFL nerd boners.
It is what it is, man. I mean, Dan Marino was like my best friend growing up.
Wow. I didn't know.
And then you. Let's not make this weird.
All right. Well, you already did, but that's okay.
I know.
He was cool. I liked him. Did you happen to catch the Ray Lucas appearance?
Yeah, man. I wrote down backup Ray Lucas, which I mean, he was on and off starter backup throughout his career.
Yeah. The poor man's Michael Bishop. I wrote down. They would bring him in on 3rd and shorts, and he would immediately get a false start, and they pull him back out again, and then put Fiedler back in to convert the 3rd and long.
It's good to see him, though.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was a former Patriot, Ray Lucas.
Oh, I noticed that he played for the Jets too, right?
I think so, yeah. But I think what happened was because it was in the one of the articles. I think if I read it correctly that when Bledsoe went down, the Patriots either traded for or signed John Freeze from the Dolphins, and so the Dolphins picked up Ray Lucas because the Patriots dropped him to be their backup. So they basically swapped quarterbacks.
Where does Damon Heward fit in all that?
Oh no, sorry, you're right. John Freeze was on the Patriots already, but they picked up Damon Heward.
Gotcha.
Yes, I get those two confused.
I don't know why. Damon Heward 5-1 starter.
How is John Freeze as a starter?
He's 2-17.
Wow, you just had that off the top of your head. I love it. Did you make that up?
I might have. I don't know. I don't even know if he was ever a starter.
No, that was good. I don't know if he ever was, but that was very well done.
Thank you.
The matchup of this game, I thought, was Matt Light versus Jason Taylor.
Yeah, not much of a matchup, but it was
What did you
sort
think
of foreshadowing? I mean, I think Matt Light was in over his head, and he obviously got tweaked by the end of the game, so that was an issue. But it's probably great exposure that early in the season to go up against somebody like that.
Yeah, because I don't think Matt Light even played the first game because he was injured. So this is his 3rd game as a NFL starter. He's going up against Jason Taylor in his prime.
Yep.
Who would eat people alive. And I did notice, I think they actually called it out too early in the game where Matt Light was all about finishing the fucking play. And he would block Jason Taylor like even after the whistle was done. He's like trying to set the tone, and it didn't work.
Hey, but that's a Belichick attitude right there. I know,
it was a great attitude to have, and I think it's that attitude is why Matt Light played left tackle for as long as he did.
Right.
Because he just was. You kind of need that mean streak as just like an offensive lineman in general, but
right. Which I mean, I wouldn't say that he was like amazing, but he was consistently good throughout his career.
Yeah. I mean, he was a solid left tackle, similar to Nate Solder, I think, who would have trouble every once in a while, but you could usually count on him to quiet most rushes off that edge.
Right.
If not, shut them down completely.
We also failed to talk about Troy Brown's fumble.
I was really just looking at that line in my notes thinking, do I want to bring this up? But I feel like we have to.
Yeah. That's probably at least in this stretch of games that we've watched recently, I would say that's his only mistake that I've seen him do.
Yeah. I don't think, like, just literally in general, I don't think I've seen him make any other mistakes, at least not that I can remember. So yeah, I think we may have actually seen and uncovered the one mistake Troy Brown has ever made.
Let's have a moment of silence.
Well, did you see his quote about it in the paper too?
No, I missed it.
Post game, they were telling him about how about the broadcast getting cut off at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, did they miss my muff punt? Did anybody see that? They're like, yeah, no, that it was on by then. He's like, oh, damn it.
That's pretty funny.
Good old Troy Brown.
And I'm not saying that the events were funny. I'm saying that Troy Brown's reaction to his fumble is what's funny. For the record.
Simmer down.
Jesus.
You're canceled.
Hey, Troy Brown fumbling, though, at the Patriots 2-yard line, no less.
Yeah, it was a bad fumble, but it only resulted in a field goal.
And why is that, Andrew? Because they had an amazing, potentially best moment of the game, goal line stand.
Yes.
Forcing
I think if they had won it, that would have been the thing you'd see on Turning Point on NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
Films.
I mean, it was still early in the game, but with the Vrabel interception, with the touchdown run, with the goal line stand, this was looking pretty good in the beginning, like you said.
Yeah, they would definitely hang in there. But this was right around the time that the Patriots sideline were having headset issues too. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah,
and Belichick was livid.
Oh, he was complaining the whole game pretty much. It felt like, where he wanted the other team to remove their headsets. I mean, I don't know why that didn't happen though.
Yeah, it didn't seem to. And
right.
But there was nothing. I mean, obviously we don't have access to the post game videos or anything. So I mean, but there was nothing.
Anybody
in any of the...
out there is listening and has access to that, please email.
Oh man, I don't know if I need anything else for my Spank Bank, but yeah, that would be awesome to have.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, in the papers, there was no mention of it whatsoever. There was no mention of Belichick even talking about it, which, as we know, further down the line in this dynasty, that the opposite would happen quite often. Usually from, was there ever anybody other than Mike Tomlin that would bitch about it? I feel like he would do it every time he showed up.
Yeah, he's the biggest proponent of that whole argument. I was thinking, though, and this is, again, partly sell his soul. You know my views on Belichick. Love him. Yeah. Very suspicious. So I was
That's why we're friends.
I was thinking, could this have been the first time that gave Belichick the idea to really fuck with the headsets? You know what I mean? Because, I mean, it obviously affected him to the point where he was livid, right? So how funny would it be? And just like now we see Tomlin, right? Let's say hypothetically, and let's agree that he did, fuck with those headsets intentionally every time. Imagine like Tomlin on the sideline losing his mind, and Belichick's not showing like anything. No, his poker face is like on strong, and that guy's losing his mind. Inside, that dude is grinning.
100%.
And you see like the bug-eyed look, the anger just spewing off of Tomlin's face. That's freaking hilarious. Do you think that it started with this game kind of giving him that idea?
I think here's how far I'll go. I think this game with that happening is one of those things where Belichick adds that to his little piece of paper that he's always scribbling on of the things they're going to take care of for now until ever. Like, it's one of those things that they're going to be prepared for. It's one of those little things that they prepare for.
Right.
That's now on the list, and that will never happen again.
Would you say it's a cheat sheet or a cheater sheet?
A Bella cheat sheet?
Ooh, Bella cheat sheet. I like it. I don't know. It's something to table for now, but we can. Oh man, it would be
we
great.
We need a store so we can sell those.
No, we should tally how many little things could be considered like in the cheat sheet or cheater sheet, right? Tally them up at the end of the each season, and then just by the end see what the score is on if Belichick is in fact a cheater. That's something that Patriots fans might be interested in. I don't know.
I think you're right. No, they'd love that. You're going to be their favorite person.
I'll toss it to Steve and Greg and see what they think.
Oh, Steve will definitely be all about that. He loves being hated. All right, so we've blamed the Patriots going behind on the muff punt and the headsets. So not their fault, even though they had the defensive hold on the goal line.
Right.
So then I think it was the ensuing drive. Patriots are moving the ball again. I don't know if you saw this, but there was one play. I think it's like a 3rd and 4-ish, like near midfield. Brady goes on a bootleg, and there's a rusher right in his face immediately, so he just takes off upfield.
Yes,
and then goes for the slide and gets lit the fuck up. Like forearm right across the eyebrows.
This is one of my best moments of the game, and not because he got lit up, but that's bad timing on my part. But
I know what you're gonna say,
yeah, and he just gets in the face of Walker, I believe it was, and he's just like, picture a guy on like his second start, just like getting up and just going on a tirade,
poking him in the chest, he's screaming at him.
That was a good move.
It was, yeah. But I mean, that's the old school Brady that you kind of remember, that fire in his belly, just like not gonna take shit from me. He doesn't care who the fuck that is. He just gets up. He's like, how dare you try to hit me in the head, try to take my head off when I'm sliding.
That's right.
And he didn't even get the call for it.
No, I know. It was a lot more lax back then.
Yeah, you could say that.
Which also, like, I also made a note. Were the shoulder pads bigger back then? I know we've talked about equipment.
Oh, shit.
Dude, or was everybody like on steroids? And I know that in the 70s everybody was. So maybe everybody was in the freaking early 2000s. I don't know. But they were massive people running around that field.
So, all right, I had something slightly different than that.
Okay.
There was some story this year about how Brady has been wearing the same shoulder pads since high school or college, wherever it was.
Yeah, Michigan.
But you look at shots of him on the sideline of these games, and his shoulder pads are like 6 inches out past like corner of his arms.
Okay.
Like, there's no way they're the same shoulder pads unless they just have shirts that fit differently or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody was looking like a jacked up monster out there.
Yeah, they do. They look like basically what the guys in the black hole at Raiders games wish they looked like.
Right. Yeah, that's
like
good.
Like extra large shoulder pads sticking out.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. Which I also wrote down because you had mentioned it before we got on here, but we can tie it into the steroid talk. But
do it.
On this day, I believe Barry Bonds also broke the home run record.
Yes. Yeah. The San Mateo alum.
Barry That's right. Bonds. That's right. One and the same.
Yeah.
So I vaguely remember, I mean, because I believe we were in high school. I remember this this happening. We would kind of play pickup football games and kind of romanticize this whole like home run thing. Everyone would kind of like be talking about it week after week. And then obviously the steroid stuff came out and that whole era was tainted. And looking at these guys, I'm pretty sure a lot of these guys were on something throughout football. I mean, obviously now it's HGH or whatever, and guys are running faster, but they were pretty jacked back then. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on steroid use?
I think that I agree with you. I think there were a lot of people on steroids. I think football as a game back then, they would was just a game for bigger people in general. There wasn't as much a focus on speed as there was on size and hitting, because it was more run first. The offense and the rules of the league hadn't been tailored towards the passing game yet.
Right.
And so I'm sure there were pressures on getting bigger than the guy across from you on the field.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I think also the equipment probably played into that too. Like you're talking about, like these massive shoulder pads and kind of baggier jerseys as well.
Yep.
This makes everybody look like a bit like a Frankenstein costume, you know?
Now I'll toss this out to you because I mean I'll go on the record, and this is a hot take. I'll go on the record as saying that steroid use is extremely bad for your body. It's poor sportsmanship for those that are not on steroids. It's not a level playing field, and obviously, if you're doing that and you're getting an advantage, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily feel like I'm the better person or the better athlete because obviously I'm assisted. But like you said, other people were taking it too. And so how do you compete with those people is the question. But so Barry Bonds, and I've thought about this, and it's sort of like everyone likes to play the safe answer, which is fine. Safe keeps you alive for the most part. But Barry Bonds was a household name, and he was great. He was probably going to be considered a great after he was done. But I would say that once the steroid use started happening, he became very much a household name nationwide, and he became a star, right? So he broke this record for the rest of his career. I mean, he became the type that was feared, and they would walk them every time. It was like this whole like lore that was being created around this guy. And, whatever, it came out. Same thing with a lot of these guys, Clemens and whatever. And now they're like the pariah of society, Lance Armstrong, all that stuff, which, of course, Lance Armstrong, I mean, it seemed a little iffy that the guy would be so dominant with no peers. But we all want
it's because he has
hero.
No balls, Mike. It's the
Okay.
cancer.
Well, so you're saying he has to compensate for that, which it's his choice. I
just made it more streamlined. That's all.
Right, exactly. So he's leveling the playing field by doing that. He was at a disadvantage, and he was being humble and slightly scared to reveal that information for being judged. But anyway, so all these guys, so people love heroes, right? They love larger than life characters. They love big numbers. Hopefully people like Brady and Mahomes are clean and like we can kind of cherish them as their careers are over. But yeah, so these guys are like cartoon characters or superheroes where they're a little bit different than everybody else. And so we praise them. And then when we find out all this stuff, it crumbles, right? And then they become pariahs and we like shit on them. But we sort of had a hand in it because we wanted it so badly, right? So my question to you is, so Barry Bonds now and Clemens and all those guys, they're starting to be talked about Hall of Fame and all that stuff, and people are coming around to them because of the era, right? So as with time, everything sort of gets rewritten slightly. So he might be in the Hall of Fame, he might be beloved one day. Would you, as Barry Bonds, right? Actually, no, as Andy Brown. Fucking Barry Bonds.
All right.
Andy Brown, you start off on the Pirates, you end up being on the Red Sox, right? We'll change history a little bit. And you're just about to become like David Ortiz, right? And I don't know what the deal is with that guy. Things have been tossed around, never proven, whatever. I just bring him up because he's the most recent Red Sox hero.
Yep.
And so basically I'm stalling here, but what I want to ask is, would you, knowing that you're going to be one of the greats, take steroids, knowing that it'll also increase your brand and probably give you a shit ton of money, and it would guarantee that you would be one of the greats, and then whatever happens after happens? Or would you play it safe, play by the book, knowing that other people do this, and then just be a good player that's eventually forgotten?
I would probably do steroids if I knew it would make me the greatest.
Okay, so it has to have that stipulation.
I think so.
So,
but I think that's why everybody does them.
Right. So, but I mean, you would have to have that thought if you were going to start doing it. So, let's say you're one of these guys where you have your ego sort of plays into that realm because that's your industry, right?
I mean, that sounds like me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you thought like somebody sold it on you or was like, yeah, man, like you'll knock out over 70 home runs or whatever it is, whatever sport, you think you might consider it if it would bring you to the next level.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would.
I think so too. I'm like, it's not black or white, man. Like that's a very complex issue. And like, I understand it breaks down your body, and I'm not condoning it as well. But I also understand what thought process these guys had, and some of them didn't even know really what was going on. As silly as that sounds, I believe some of that. So how can we as a society then condemn these people to the point where they should be in jail for 20 years for destroying the integrity of the game, when it's like, hey, it's his choice. Yes, it is cheating. Yeah, he should be banned from the sport maybe, or maybe not be in the record books. But how can we condemn a guy who's like trying to compete and be known as one of the greats? I think that's very black and white thinking. I don't know.
It is, and I think there are people who just think in black and white, and it's either right or it's wrong, and if it's wrong, then he should be condemned. I'm not one of those people, I think. I have less of a problem with steroids and that sort of stuff in football because of how violent a sport it is, and it seems like a lot of the guys, at least nowadays, that are getting caught using it are ones who are doing it to come back from injury more quickly.
Are you alluding to like Edelman and things like that?
Oh yeah, well I was thinking about Rodney Harrison, but yeah, Edelman as well, and those sorts. And I'm assuming there have been other people. I mean,
well, even like
Adrian Peterson blew out his whatever it was, his ACL or something.
Yeah,
and was back within like some ridiculous time. Or even Saquon Barkley recently had a high ankle sprain, which is supposed to put you out for 6 weeks, and he was back in like 2.
Yeah, no, and then people wonder, they're like, oh, they're superhuman. It's like, I don't think it works that way.
No, that's
well, and even like we'll joke about like Peyton Manning, and I don't know if he was taking HGH or not, but if the guy has a neck injury and he can barely feel his fingertips and he's doing whatever he can to keep playing the game, I'm not condoning that again, because whatever he's doing to his body is his choice. But I also don't condone it, because not everybody is able to be on it. Like if it was made available, that's a different thing. But I can't like hate the guy for wanting to continue playing the game.
Exactly.
I can make fun of him all day long because it's funny.
Yeah, especially because of the size that it made his forehead.
Well, and I don't know if it did anything for his face, but the Manning face is still one of the greatest ever. And obviously,
that's pure genetics, bro.
Yeah, and then like,
because I don't think anyone's going to accuse Eli Manning of doing steroids, but they have the exact same face.
That's true. His is slightly different. There are nuances, but like, yeah, and the storyline is just made funnier because, like, yeah, supposedly his wife got it and all this other stuff, and like yada yada yada. The point is that it's funny, I think, because of the situation, how ridiculous it is. It's not funny because of how damaging it is to your body and that you're cheating, but I feel like they're not, to my knowledge, killing anybody or whatever. So I think it's a little harsh to condemn a person. Again, kick them out of the league, do whatever. But, I can understand reasons why people might or might not want to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
And on that note, Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, yeah. Exactly.
But David Ortiz.
Castrate that
awesome.
Motherfucker. Get him out of here. Yeah, I do. I think going back to just like the look and feel of these like players, I thought the other great thing about old school football were the face masks.
Oh, yeah.
They were just so badass. I don't know what it was about him, but like the Ty Law with the 2 like bars kind of like on the outside of his eye line. Like coming down, like the vertical ones. For some reason, like every time I create my player in Madden, I'm like, I have to have the Ty Law helmet.
Oh yeah, it's all about the accessories, man.
Oh man, that was so great. Or even the like the one with the running backs, where it's like a regular one, but like the middle bar had like 2 bars across it.
Yeah.
A little dip across like in between the eyes at the top.
Yep.
Oh my god. Or
the tinted visors were cool.
Oh yeah, but Orlando Mares, who was the kicker, who had like the top of the bar kind of like went up a bit, so it looked like he was raising his eyebrows in a quizzical fashion. But on his helmet, he always like he puts a helmet on, all of a sudden like immediately looks confused.
Right.
Amazing.
Which is a great tactic.
Especially since he never missed a field goal.
Right.
He is underselling people. So speaking of football, so we kind of talked about the first half, and it was decent. But then the second half happened, and I think it was the third quarter, especially where the wheels fell off, because it was 17-10 right at the end of the half.
Mm-hmm.
Patriots got the ball back to start the second half.
Well, and can I talk about how the second half ended? I believe this is how it ended, but you can.
The second half ended?
I mean the first half, second quarter. Sorry,
Andrew.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. Not all of us can do that. I'm sorry.
How's that working?
Not very well, apparently. Thank you for calling me out.
You're welcome, you illiterate fuck. All right, so
Okay.
tell me about the end of the first half, the second quarter.
And I'm hoping that this is because the notes are in chronological order, not because I ran out of space. But I recall a Hail Mary attempt at the right before the halftime, and Brady was chucking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the commentators were sort of talking about, like, can what's the strategy or whatever, and he drops back to pass, and Jason Taylor sacks Brady, which I wrote down. You don't often see that. It's sort of like a prevent defense with a couple of rushers, and the quarterback's running around. So Jason Taylor lit him up, and that was before what you were going to talk about in the second half of the game, where things just started to fall out. So I feel like that was an indication of how things would continue.
Yeah, it was the what do they call that in literary terms, where you show the gun in the first scene and you have to use it?
Foreshadowing.
It's something like that, yeah. But there's like a smoking gun rule or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. You are very good at English. You tell me.
Apparently not that good, because I don't remember what it's called. But yeah,
edit this in, and we can make you sound smarter.
That's a lot of editing.
Okay.
But yeah, I think foreshadowing is a good way of putting it, where the defensive pressure is an issue for this offense right now. And I always remember that against Miami. And it wasn't always just Jason Taylor. It was just like Miami defenses in general. But I think even like more than that, it was AFC East defenses in general. Because I think when a new coach would come in, or a new GM or whatever will come into the AFC East, the immediate first step is to build a team that beats Patriots. And the number one way of beating the Patriots, stopping Tom Brady, number one way of stopping Tom Brady is being able to get to him without blitzing. So over the years, I know there's been a bunch of arguments about how none of these AFC East teams have ever had a decent quarterback, but I think it's because they always started building with that defensive line, and they were always like monsters.
Right.
Like the Jets always had great defensive linemen. Dolphins, Bills always had these absolute just guys that would wreak havoc. So I actually looked it up to find out who had the most sacks against the Patriots. So I'll give you the top 10. Actually, I want to see if you can guess. I want to see if you can guess number one.
Number one, lineman.
Yes, they are all linemen.
And they're NFL wide or division?
NFL wide.
NFL wide. I mean, the top one has to be within the division, because just by frequency alone, I would think. So I would say, I have no idea, man. I mean, John Abraham comes to mind.
He's on the list.
Okay.
He's number 9 with 6 sacks.
Ooh. I mean, we could go Jason Taylor on that one.
Number 2, tied for second with 12 sacks.
Wow, no kidding. I would say, I mean, that's it. I'm out.
Right. Technically, it is Aaron Schobel. Remember him from the Bills?
That one. Oh, yeah. Now I remember. I would not have guessed that one. That's number one?
Yes.
Oh,
he technically had 14 sacks, although 2 of them were half sacks. So or
Has
3
someone
more. So
ever brought
he
this
had
to his
12.
attention? Because that
I believe so. I think he
would
knows.
probably make him happy.
Yeah. So it's Aaron
Did somebody
Schobel.
tweet Aaron Schobel about that?
I guarantee he knows that stat.
Okay.
The Jason Taylor, Joey Porter, Joey Porter, Steelers obviously also played for the Dolphins. Sean Ellis for the Jets.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then Cameron Wake for the Dolphins. So
Yep, I feel that.
of the top 5, 3 of those were Dolphins defensive linemen.
Nice.
Then it gets a bit interesting. Number 6, Von Miller for the Broncos.
I can see that. Is he a lineman though? He's like a linebacker hybrid.
Well, I mean, they're all. This is just who has the most sacks.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
But yeah, I think. And then it's Kyle Williams for the Bills.
Yep.
Surprisingly, Robert Mathis from the Colts, of course. John Abraham from the Jets, like we said, and then at number 10, Justin Tuck from the Giants.
Ooh. There you
5.
go.
But I mean,
is that including playoffs?
I believe so. Yes.
Then that makes sense, unfortunately.
But yeah. So, of the 631 sacks that have happened since 2001 against Patriots quarterbacks in general, so not all Tom Brady, but the vast majority of them are. A third of those have come from the AFC East. So like quite a large percentage.
Man, so how many was that? 600 and something?
631. And
don't they say that each tackle or sack is like a car accident?
Yeah, I think so.
So Brady's potentially been in 600 plus car accidents?
Yeah, give or take.
That's fucked up.
And of those, 214 were from the AFC East.
Jeez,
players. Man. Yeah. So, I mean, this is why I think when you think about Patriots divisional games, you think of like these slugfests and, Brady having to overcome some sort of stout defense too. That's custom built to prevent him doing what he wants to do comfortably.
Mm.
So it's almost even more impressive what he's been able to do against it. I mean, there's a lot of sacks by the Bills, but not very many wins. I think they've beaten them 3 times.
Well, I mean, it's also the dink and dunk thing that people love to praise and bash, at the same time. But I mean, how do you adapt to something like that? You figure out a different way to do it,
right?
Which is not necessarily West Coast. I mean, they do their own thing, but you take
you would
bits
think
of each
that
system.
Yeah, that getting that pressure with your defensive lineman without blitzing, and then being able to play coverage behind that should prevent any sort of dinking and dunking.
Right. Well, that's where the running backs come in, of course. And I think like with Shane Vereen and all those guys, Kevin Falk,
James White.
I think, Bill Belichick sort of figured that out, I think, pretty early on. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense because you have the tight ends in the middle, the wide receivers in the back, but you still have these like monsters kind of like rushing. So you have the running back either blocking or going out for like a short 2-yarder that could potentially be a 20-yarder.
Right.
So it makes sense based on like how you're saying that.
It shows you the value of Gronkowski as well in this offense, where he can either stay in and block or
get old
go
Gronk.
out and be a weapon downfield. Yeah.
If they would only legalize CBD oil, he would be back.
That's all it takes.
Right.
So so we've kind of been alluding to this too, with talk about Brady getting sacked and pressure and stuff, and the actual turning point in this game, I think, was the fumble, which is not something I've seen before. Because do you want to talk through this, or do you want me to do it?
Go for it.
Because I think the play-by-play of this is fantastic. Because what happens is he's actually under center. It's not like it was a shotgun snap or anything, but he mishandles the snap and the ball falls like to his right onto the ground. And the right guard is going back in pass protection. So he takes a step back and the ball falls perfectly where I think it's the left foot of the right guard back heels the football like to a point where I think some soccer players would be jealous, just the way that he hit it, how square it was. he caught it dead on and kicked it 10 yards directly backwards. And the only people that knew what was happening was Tom Brady and any Dolphins pass rushers. And these pass rushers had a 7-yard head start on Brady getting up the field because Brady still hadn't seen what had happened to this ball get kicked backwards.
Yeah,
So Jason Taylor picked it up at the 1, uncontested, and took 2 steps and was then celebrating a touchdown. And so it went from being a 7-point game, being down 17-10 to being down 24-10. And
it all went down from there.
Yes, because now you're a one-dimensional offense, and you are starting a quarterback in his second game against the pass-rushing phenom of this Dolphins defensive line. And the results were pretty predictable.
Well, I mean, Brady, what I liked about the last minute or so of the game was that the announcers were kind of like touching on this, where Belichick wasn't giving up. He was forcing Brady to kind of run his, no huddle or 2-minute offense or whatever, the hurry up, I don't know if they were huddling or not, but I know there was like some sort of, desperation to get him a touchdown.
Yeah.
And, they didn't get that. It actually ended up with Brady fumbling again to end the game.
Yeah, getting strip sacked to end the game, which
right.
was literally right after the announcers had praised Belichick for keeping Brady in to run this and get him the experience. And that happened, and I thought, well, there's some experience for you.
That's right. But then also on that drive, I thought it was interesting because they ran a fake snap to Brady that went to Kevin Falk. And
their direct snap. Yeah, that was the first one that you'd seen of that play, because they bring
where Brady
that back.
pretends to be chasing it in the sky.
Yeah, the ball goes over his head and he jumps and flails for it, and Kevin Falk's 2 steps to his right.
So I thought that was an interesting wrinkle, more of the Belichick stuff, where he's like, there's 30 seconds left in the game. Most people would waste this. Let's throw something out there so people know that that's there.
Yeah,
and they might
let's just try it and see if it works
in
game situations, and it did. It got 7 or 8 yards, I think, which at the time didn't really mean anything, but you knew it worked. And they actually wrote a whole blog post about that play in particular, where they kind of brought it back a bunch of different times. Oftentimes, when they actually really needed a score for 2-point conversions and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a go-to
in the playoff game against the Chargers. They shouldn't have won.
Right.
But then I think it was in 2007, they did the an offshoot of it where they actually snapped the ball to Brady and he caught it and pretended to jump over his hand, and Kevin Falk pretended to take, I don't even think it was Kevin, I may not even been Kevin Falk at that point, but pretended to do the direct snap. And it was almost like a Statue of Liberty play where Brady still had the ball with his back turned to the defense for a good second.
Mm-hmm.
And then he pulled it out, turned around, and threw a touchdown to, I believe it was Welker at the time. So they kind of they continued to iterate over it. But you even saw it as recently as the Falcons Super Bowl. But it did that. Was that on a 2-point conversion as well? In that comeback? It was either a short touchdown or a 2-point conversion. I can't remember. I think it was a 2-point conversion.
Well, and then I also feel like on top of that, their other go-to now is sort of that little push pass or shovel pass that Brady does to whoever's running across. So between those two plays, I think I've seen those two the most.
Yeah. That and almost the real fast screenplay, which is the other play they did for the 2-point conversion in the Falcons Super Bowl, where they throw it to either Amendola or Edelman, out of the bunch. It's immediate snap and chuck it to him. Then the 2 guys in front of him block, and he just dives through those 2.
Right. Yeah, but overall, I mean, I wrote down Brady's numbers. He was 12 for 24, so at 50%, 86 yards passing, 2 fumbles. And, we laugh at the sports writers because they're both
4 sacks.
But 4 sacks, 47 yards rushing by Antoine Smith. Everyone pretty much crapped on this one.
It was not good.
But, I mean, if Bledsoe was ready to come back the next week, I think there would be some sort of thought process going there on which way to go. But because there was a little bit more time, and I think now, especially nowadays, man, you get a backup
and he has a performance like that, I think he's pretty much done. So
you're kind of toast.
Yeah, so I think it was the perfect storm for Brady to kind of lick his wounds. And he after the game he responded pretty well. Still very confident, talking about practicing and all that stuff. So
yeah, about who are they interviewing? I think it was Loy Malloy that they were interviewing, and he was talking about how Brady come to him at practice on Wednesday and be like, dude, like practice, like we're doing terribly in practice, but I'm the backup, so I don't like have the ability to like call this out. So I'm coming to you as the captain to like call this out that we're practicing like shit. So that you can get us to get our shit together.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
You delegate when necessary.
Yeah, but I have to say this is probably the only game of football that I can recall where neither quarterback threw for 100 yards.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty
really bad,
pretty rough to watch. I got to admit, but
it went quickly though.
I guess. I mean, I was kind of, I had my eye on the fast forward button a couple of times, but
yeah.
But we're here bringing it to anyone who is listening so that they can hear our bullshit, but not necessarily watch this disaster.
Yeah,
but one thing we have. Go ahead.
This would be a skip. If you're following,
I would definitely not watch this one.
No.
But there are certain takeaways that are pretty good. But one thing we haven't talked about that we've talked about every other time were the announcers. And for me, a part of the fun of looking back at these games is sort of what's being said, because I mean, you just see how society sort of changes and things evolve, and like what people would consider acceptable and what they understand to not be acceptable now. But I have a bunch of stuff written down from it was Gus Johnson and Brent Jones again.
Yep.
And
I don't mind them.
Me neither, but Brent Jones is like I think he wants to be, if he knew like how Tony Romo would be, I think he wants to be that, because I think Tony Romo's fantastic. He's like real and he's honest with his opinions. He's funny.
And he's excited to be watching the game.
He's excited.
Like whatever game it is.
Yeah, he's got the players, side of things, but he's also a goofball, right? So Brent Jones is a goofball, but I think he's like highly uncomfortable in like funny ways now looking back. I don't think this guy would have a job for 2 weeks today. Not doing this. I don't know what he's doing now. Maybe he might still be doing this, but
probably.
I can't imagine though.
So
can you look
so
that
what's
up,
making
please?
you say this?
All right, man. First of all, the first thing that I got of this game, which is like basic like comedy, I feel like, and this guy was shitting himself. But they were talking about how, it was hot on the field. This is right to start off the game. And then they cut away to a cheerleader, and the cheerleader, has got this bit where she's holding a thermometer and it's like 120 degrees, whatever. And let's see, it wasn't even that funny, but let me see. So Brent Jones, he goes, that is hot down there. And he's like shitting himself. And I'm sitting there going, what the fuck? And then like Gus, he goes, oh, well, I have enough savvy to not comment on that. Yeah. And then Brent goes, I think my career is over. So even then he knew that was like inappropriate. And the guy's like falling over himself for literally 2 more plays.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But he was cracking himself up over that one. He loved it.
It was hilarious. Another comment. Brent Jones goes, Mark Edwards, great hands for a fullback. And then Gus goes, really? And I was like, what does that mean? So what kind of like response is that? And then another personal favorite of mine, Gus, we were out on the practice field on Friday. It was so hot, we were standing around, almost fell out. Yeah. And then Brent Jones goes, don't say we. What the fuck, man? Yeah. And now,
fucking hardo.
This also brings
I can sweat with the best of them.
He said some shit that I assume are football terms, but I'm not as savvy as you are, Andy. So I wrote these things down, and maybe you can enlighten me on what the hell he was talking about. And I assume that they're football related. The first one is Herkenjerk.
Is it, I don't know if that's a real football term. I thought that was more like a weightlifting term. Don't they have like a clean jerk and or something like that?
And a herkin jerk? What is a
Uh,
herkin jerk?
I don't know. It doesn't. It sounds painful, doesn't it?
It sounds like a technique for sure.
Yeah. He may have made that one up.
Okay, so you're gonna go not football on this one?
Yeah.
All right. So the next one, delivering the wood.
Oh, that's definitely a thing. Yeah.
What is that?
That means laying a big hit.
Laying a big hit. So it doesn't. It means it's a football thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like hitting somebody in the face with 2x4. That's sort of delivering the wood. Not like
gotcha.
Not
Okay.
like showing up with a pickup truck full of firewood. It's not
Okay.
that sort of delivery.
Right, just like 2x4 across the head. Got it.
Yeah.
Looking for gaping holes.
So that's a good segue into the one that I wrote down.
Okay. I still want to know, but go on.
Brent Jones, these holes are tight with the Patriots. You have to keep pounding at them.
See, he's good with it. What is that? What does the gaping holes, pounding the holes mean for those that don't know, including myself?
I believe that's talking about the running game where you want the offensive lineman to open up holes.
Oh, okay, so the
defensive
they're
line
looking for the gaping holes.
So yeah, a bigger hole is better in this term of
Okay.
gaping. Whereas if the holes are tight, like they are with the Patriots, you have to keep pounding them so that they become gaping.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's a football term.
Yes.
Okay, and then so then there was take your crack or give it away.
Do we have any context to this one?
It was like, you're driving, let's say it's fourth down,
Yeah.
you're trying to toss it up and you take your crack or give it away, he said.
Oh, interesting. I think that might just be a Freudian slip of the tongue, and Brent Jones is actually a cocaine addict.
Okay, so not football related.
I don't think so.
And then my last one that I have written down here, the little man in the canoe. Is that football or not football? It is
football. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but you know what it is? I bet it's a chin strap. It's your chin being in the chin strap.
I don't think he said it in the game. I'm just curious.
I had one more.
That he actually said?
Yeah, and it's not sexual.
Okay. Wait, what? You didn't tell me what that meant.
It's just
I thought
wrong.
you said it was a chin strap.
No, it is. You know what I mean.
Okay.
It's the
I put
lower
down
chin strap.
football.
The lower hemisphere chin strap.
Yeah, so football.
Yeah, vaguely football related.
Okay, moving on.
So when Belichick was flipping his shit about the headsets,
Yeah.
they showed him and he was livid. And Brent goes, "You never see Bill Belichick this animated," as he's yelling at the referees. And I thought, really? I feel like he's always that animated.
But is that revisionist? Are we looking back? I mean, he's always pretty much like that, but
Yeah, I don't think that's a secret. And this wasn't like his first season with the team.
it might be the first time that Brent Jones was paying attention.
Yeah,
Because
well,
he obviously wasn't paying attention to all the other stuff.
there were a lot of cheerleaders and a lot of gaping holes, so
Hey,
maybe he was distracted.
you're talking about the linemen
different
opening
things.
up
I'm talking about two
holes
different things.
for running backs.
Yeah, no, those are two different things.
Dude, I'm just trying to figure this out, man, because, I mean, Brent Jones is telling me football shit, and he's supposedly a dude who played, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just trying to learn.
49ers.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not.
All right. You're not savvy with the lingo, huh?
No.
All right. Okay.
And
buddy.
if I have to write these things down every week until we get to the bottom of this, I will.
Okay. I think that's a great segment. We will do that.
We'll call it football or not football.
All right. The one other thing I want to talk about that I had on my list was the Terry Glenn saga.
Oh yeah. I had made note of that.
Yeah, because it wasn't in any of the papers or anything, so maybe it was like earlier in the week or something. But the commentators talked about how next week Terry Glenn was coming back and what had led to that, because apparently he had been suspended 4 games for violating the league substance abuse policy. I don't know what substance he abused. Do you remember?
I don't know. I mean, obviously he had his off the field issues, so my mind tends to think that. But
yeah, I didn't think it was like a PED thing.
No, I don't think so.
But then they talked about how Belichick, because he was suspended, so he didn't show up to like OTAs or camp or something like that. And so Belichick just said, "Fuck it, you're suspended for the year."
Yeah,
which is such a fucking Belichick move.
It is.
But I guess like they didn't say why, but like, oh, but so that got reversed. So I'm assuming.
Yeah, they said that he appealed.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I mean, I'm assuming it's because it's not a rule. Like you can't just suspend somebody for. I mean, he didn't show up to practice and stuff though, so I don't know. There is.
So I mean, who did he appeal that to? The league or the NFLPA or to Belichick himself? But whatever happened,
the NFLPA took it to the league.
Yeah, it got reversed. So, but they were talking about how immature Glenn was, saying he did nothing wrong and like he should take accountability and all this stuff. And
which also led me to think about the whole Antonio Brown thing.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, obviously now with Twitter and everything, things are just blown out a little bit more. But you know, he has been shooting himself in the foot a few times and then not necessarily acknowledging that it's his fault. And maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. Maybe he did stuff, maybe he didn't. You know, currently at the time that we're talking about this, he's accused. I don't know what he did and what he didn't do. So I'm not going to condemn him for something that I don't know. But I will say he's not making the smartest choices. And it's kind of got a like Terry Glenn feel. Like if Terry Glenn had Twitter, this might be similar.
Yeah, it might be very similar. I agree with that.
And today, I don't know when this is going to be out, so it's probably going to be dated information. But still, it's a nostalgia podcast, so you guys can hear about what was happening even this year. But but yeah, Antonio Brown today. So he's supposed to meet with the NFL
league,
investigators, about his accused sexual harassment case situation, and. He immediately after getting – so he's been sort of campaigning to get this interview done with, and then like literally within a couple of hours of that information, being released that he was supposed to meet with them next week, he went on a Twitter tirade kind of telling the NFL to go fuck themselves and he doesn't need anybody.
Yeah,
and then
call him racist.
Racist, yep. He told all the fantasy football players to go fuck themselves. And then within 2 hours of that – there was a very well-written statement where he basically acknowledged that he's just frustrated. He still wants to play, and
really?
He wants to get. Yeah.
I didn't see that.
I would definitely check that out right now. But it's chances are it could be written by Drew Rosenhaus. I don't know. The writing styles are a little bit different. But it basically said that he's frustrated that he wants to get back in the NFL and he wants to do it ASAP. So.
I'm just very frustrated right now with these false allegations and slander to my name. I love football and I miss it. I just want to play and I'm very emotional about that. I'm determined to make my way back to the NFL ASAP.
So clearly that sounds like Antonio. As opposed to his previous one that was like, fuck this and fuck that, and I'm out making money on my body, on my mind. No way, some shit like that. And now he's like, I just miss you guys.
Yo, NFL, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I love his personality, and I mean I do think he's an entertaining guy. I love like watching him. I think he's engaging, but
he's something.
He definitely does something seems off. I don't know if he's doing this for a brand or because he's kind of going through things, but it definitely seems like, and hopefully it doesn't end like the Terry Glenn thing, and like he gets this thing situated. And I don't know if it's like. People like to throw around CTE and, obviously those perfect hits when he was on the Steelers didn't help anything probably, but I don't know why he's doing this. It's sad to see because I would have loved to watch Antonio play. But Terry Glenn was also a guy that I kind of love to watch. I mean, I watched him, I went to a couple of games when he was on the team. I liked watching it, but he was inconsistent and he did have all his troubles. So,
but when he was on the field, he was great to watch.
Yeah,
It does feel very similar now that you say that.
it's a shame. So
It is.
but hopefully he'll
get
get it sorted out.
One can
And
hope.
I also wrote down, and this is a pretty big one for me to admit, but I have the first time I've been disappointed in Lee Johnson this season so far. I know I'm a pretty big fan. Love what he's done. Love what he's he had been doing throughout his career. Big Lee Johnson fan, but this one just did not pass the sniff test.
I mean, he averaged 40, almost 45 yards a punt. He just wasn't that consistent.
Yeah, but like, what about that 20-yarder? Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, he had 5 punts. 2 of them were one was 28 yards, one was just over 30, and the other ones were bombs or 50, 60 yards. So you never knew what you were going to get with them.
That's right.
But
so
I mean, between that and the Troy Brown fumbled punt, it was tough. It was a tough day for all 3 phases, as Belichick would say.
That's right.
But yeah, so let's do best and worst. We'll wrap this up.
I mean, we've tackled so much.
I know. You want me to go first?
Yeah, do it.
All right. So my best was finding out that Jason Taylor married Zach Thomas's sister.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. See how close they are? That's
right. Yeah,
that's why they were a crazy duo.
That's team camaraderie right there.
And good for Zach. That's just being okay with that, taking him into his family.
I mean, what are you gonna say? No to Jason Taylor?
I mean, that'd be a hell of a
I'd marry
disagreement.
Jason Taylor.
Well,
I mean, he's beautiful.
There's a lot of people that I would marry before Jason Taylor, but he's great.
A lot? I think he's probably up there.
And I'm not judging you, dude.
In the NFL.
Oh, in the NFL?
Yeah, Hollywood doesn't count. You live in Hollywood. That doesn't count.
Well, I do know somebody who is married to an NFL player, and he's really good. I won't say who, but I probably would marry him because he's probably the most attainable.
Tom Brady?
Nope.
Oh, all right.
See? Guess it'll leave it up to
Jimmy
the imagination. This is this is what they call a teaser in the business. Girl. I learned that from you.
All right, yeah. So next week, find out who Mike knows that he would sleep with in the NFL.
Right. Great segment.
Hell yeah. So my worst, it was the touchdown at the end of the half. Not so much because of the touchdown itself, although that was bad because it was Teddy Bruschi in coverage 20 yards downfield, which looked exactly like you would expect it to, with Captain Neckroll trying to cover a tight end. But also the fact that when they scored the touchdown, the song that came on immediately after was "Who Let the Dogs Out."
Oh yeah, I found myself singing
celebratory
with that.
song, which I don't think I've actually sung that song since college, when I would buy a 30 rack of Red Dog, literally, so I could bring it to house parties and sing that song as I would pull it out of my backpack.
I was singing this, and then my girlfriend came into the room. She was like, just a little confused. I think we talked about it for a while, and I defended my choice because it was the party song of that time.
Oh yeah, of the early 2000s.
Yeah, and Whoomp There It Is, which I still stand by that one.
Yeah, I feel like that was a little earlier.
Okay, whatever.
So yeah, those are my best and worst.
All right, my best was Jay Fiedler. There's less than 30 seconds left. He's in the Pats red zone, and he's running the no huddle, and he scrambles. He gets plowed, right?
Yeah.
And he's rushing everybody to the line, and they need to get a first down. Brent Jones is harping on this. It's like time is running off the clock. It's like second or third down or whatever it is, and they still have chances. And he's running everybody. I think he was concussed, man. I don't think he knew where he was, but
he got lit up.
Yeah, and he rushed everybody to the line, and then he calls a quarterback sneak. So he gets the first down, and then Brent Jones is like, "Oh man!" Even though he took a pop, he's self-aware. He knew that he needed the first down. Meanwhile, another 20 seconds goes off the clock.
I'm like, I've never seen a like.
Yeah, and that QB sneaky got kind of like stood up, and he got lit up again.
He did.
Two plays in a row.
Yeah, and then Brent Jones was like just loving it. He was like, "That's what you got to do. You got to do that. Why? He had 2 downs to kind of go for something.
Exactly. Spike it. Take a timeout. You had a couple left.
Yeah,
but he was.
I don't know.
Yeah, he was. It was like that Snickers commercial. It was like, "Oh, do you know where you are?" It's like, "Yeah, it's 3rd and 2 with 20 seconds left." It's like, "Oh, and who are you?" "I'm Batman." Like he definitely thought he was Batman on that play.
I would say that is an accurate assessment and probably what the commercial was based on. I don't know which came first. I'm not sure.
Jay Fiedler definitely came first.
Yeah, then there you go.
That's what Brett Jones would say anyway.
Yeah, and then the worst I would say is Brett Jones. I mean, he was a source of inspiration for me in terms
and also
of
confusion from the sound of it.
Right, yeah, very confused, but I'm also entertained because the game itself sucked. But I would also say one of the worst moments was when the commentator said that Tom Brady won a national championship at Michigan in '97 as a backup. And he hadn't won a championship after that. So it made me sad because it was the one true time that Tom Brady was a loser.
All right, that's a pretty good one. I'll give you that. Nicely done.
Thank you.
Nicely done. Great. All right. Well, I think what do we have to look forward to next week?
You tell me, Andy.
So next week, it's the Chargers coming into town.
Nice.
A 3-1 Chargers who were undefeated until losing to the Browns this week, with Doug Flutie at the helm, because this was when the Bills had to make a choice between Doug Flutie and Rob Johnson, because that was in the Boston Globe too, and they went with Rob Johnson, who led them promptly to an 0-3 start and then got hurt and threw a bunch of interceptions and fumbles. And Doug Flutie was leading the Chargers to a 3-1 start, and they obviously made the wrong decision there, which is pretty typical Bills.
Love them.
So we have to look forward to that. Them coming to town, riding high, leading the league, even though they were 1-15 the year before.
The substance abuse policy, obviously.
Oh, absolutely not. That didn't come till later with what the hell was his name? The sack dance guy.
Oh, Sean Merriman.
Yes.
I was talking about the recreational variety, but that too.
Oh, we'll get to that then. We'll save that for next week. It's a teaser. We call that in the biz, Mike.
I already used that, man. We can't use that every episode.
It's called a callback, Mike.
All right, fine.
That's what we call it in the biz, a callback.
Well, if anybody's still listening, you just learned something.
That's right. So, not a lot of high hopes going into this next game, but we'll see how it goes. Will Tom Brady ever throw a touchdown? Will the Patriots win another game, or will they stay one win on the season forever?
My guess is yes.
Tune in next week for all that and more, and maybe some other guests.
So much more.
Between
so many guests.
So many
guests. The best guests. Go on.
No, don't go on. We're going to call it right there. All right. So until next week, we will see you then.
Later.